How's the day been so far, everyone? Good? I hope you've managed to get around and have a look at all the stands, because one of the things I've felt today is there's such an incredible vibe about this place. The energy here is amazing, and I've always been of that mindset that you surround yourself with amazing people and surround yourself with positive energy and good things will happen. And I felt that all today. So, I want to thank all of you guys for bringing that positive energy today. I think it's been also quite surreal for me. I came up from London on the train, and as I was getting off at Birmingham International, I was waiting to get off, and then suddenly this tall bloke comes out of nowhere with some pretty serious-looking guys around him, and he comes and says, "Hello, Addy." I look at him, it's Prince William. Prince William was on the train. He came over and he comes and says hello. I'm sort of taken by surprise, and he's asking me about, where I was going and what I was doing. And I even tried to convince him to come to Expo Live. But he's doing something with the Commonwealth Games. And then when he was leaving, we had this awkward thing because he was so sort of, it wasn't one of these, I don't know, these serious sort of situations. I was like, what do I do? Do I fist bump him? Do I hug him? Do I do all of this? Do I elbow? But in the end, we did a handshake. So I handshook royalty today. Pretty cool. But listen, talking about royalty, we're going to go from actual royalty to sporting royalty and a sporting legend. He has been on so many amazing shows. Ben Cohen is a Rugby World Cup winner. He's been on Strictly Come Dancing. He's a contestant, and he's won Channel 4's winter sports celebrity show, The Jump. I mean, that show was bonkers. What was he doing on The Jump? So please give a nice, warm welcome to World Cup winner, top geezer, Ben Cohen. Yes, fella. Nice.
Yeah, you too. How's it?
Nice. So good to have you here, and I think this is just a wonderful privilege to get a one-on-one with someone like Ben, who's done so much and achieved so much in your life. I mean, first and foremost, what were you thinking going on The Jump? I mean, that's...
Just literally, when you said that, I said to the guys behind there, I said, yeah, I lost 2 teeth, had 20 stitches, but I had a great time.
Do you know what I mean? It was like, that was the show where celebrities go to break bones.
I loved it, I have to say. Do you guys watch it? It was bonkers. I mean, proper hard work, but it was nice just being up a mountain. It was different. I enjoyed the whole process of learning how to ski, and just, yeah, I loved it. And the most terrifying part is going down that big ski jump, and and then you've got there's like aluminium trays. As soon as you get in and you let go, there's no way out. You're just going to make sure you're going to go out the end, and that's it. And it's just a bit of a free fall at the end. But it was good. I had a great time.
Nuts. I mean, they actually asked me to go on it, and they were seriously, because I ski a bit, and they were working the whole year on getting a solution, and I was getting taught how to do the jump. But in the end, the insurers just said, no way, we're going to send this guy who's never really skied that much before up the top of a slope and throw him off a hill. Yeah, they're not going to. I wasn't getting insured for that at all. And luckily, I got out of it because there's some broken bones.
Everyone's getting broken.
Yeah. Another question I want to ask you, are you still dancing?
No, I don't dance. I retired. I wouldn't even say I danced anyway. I said this to you, it was like a drunken stumble most weeks. Although, doing Strictly, and I take it a lot of you watch Strictly, it's intense, man. It's hard. It's petrifying. I couldn't dance anyway, except for the head nod and, or something like that. But I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually profoundly deaf. I lip read. So when I went into my first dance session with Christina, and she looked at me, she goes, every beat has a step. And she's going through this song that I was dancing to. It's Love Me Again by John Newman. And she's going through the beats. And I said, I can't hear the beats, I'm deaf.
Wow.
And she goes, oh, shit. The thing about it was that when we danced, the men have to lead, I can't lead. So when you get into all of this nice pose, she would go this way, this way, and then she'd go this way, and then she'd be squeezing hands. And that was our little secret code of getting through some of these dances. But 7 to 9 hours a day. And it was an amazing experience, incredibly hard work, but loved it.
I mean, what an insight. I didn't know you were profoundly deaf.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that adds even more to it, you know, with the dancing as well, like not hearing the beat and the communication and stuff.
You know, it's amazing how you adapt, right?
Yes.
And for me, I learned very early on, when I was playing rugby, I couldn't hear anything. I just hear a noise, you know, especially with the crowd and other players. And I learned to lip read. And it was brilliant because before COVID, and obviously with masks, it was great to eavesdrop on everyone's conversations, but actually I got so much more out of it, being able to lip read. But I was the second highest try scorer of England of all time. And there's only one reason for that, is that I couldn't hear anyone to pass the ball to.
Hey,
I literally ran scared.
Love it. I mean, I have no excuse. I'm not profoundly deaf, but I never pass the ball to anybody. I'm shooting it. I see it, I'm shooting it. I love it. Also, you've got kids, teenagers. Have you gone through that rite of passage as a dad where you've done dad dancing? And also because, you know, you've been on Strictly, ain't you allowed? You know, when they have their party and they have all their best friends in there, you go, come on, step back, step back.
It's the expectation, isn't it? Like, it's the expectation of being thinking, oh, he can dance. And actually, the reality is, I can dance to the songs that I learned to dance to. And if I can remember them now, that'd be different. But yeah, just to bubble, I leave that to Christina and little Miller. She's training now, doing a ballroom and Latin dancer, so she'll be a little superstar, no doubt.
I'm looking forward to dad dancing. I can't wait for it. I am properly going to embarrass my kids, man.
Yeah, I love embarrassing kids.
I'm looking forward to it. Listen, let's get into things and talk about your charity that you set up. So tell us about the StandUp Foundation, what it does, and why you decided to create it.
It's just before I set up the foundation in 2011 as a social commercial brand of a foundation. It was an anti-bullying foundation. We looked at equality, diversity, and all of the things in between. And we wanted to highlight what bullying does and support organisations that do real-world work. But we didn't really want to go for the same grants, as we'll be really taking away money and important funds for these organisations to deliver their work. So by setting up a social commercial brand, we could sell products to help support the cause. And I was very fortunate enough to get the eyes and ears of Nike. And I set the foundation up in America. It was where my fan base was. We came up with a brand called Be True with Nike, and with that I set up a Nike coalition group to be the beneficiary of the money. And it sounds great, and it sounds like it's amazing, but to get to that point, and really the underpinning and the foundation for me that really made me achieve greatness. I use that loosely, but if you'd ever seen me play rugby when I was younger, you'd have said absolutely no chance that's going to do anything. But there was a time in my life that changed everything. My father got murdered. My dad got beaten to death protecting someone, and by 7 people. I mean, he's savagely beaten, bitten across the face and everything. It was horrid. Mum tried to commit suicide after that twice, and it was a murder trial. And lucky enough, my dad had already seen me play for England. It does get better. It does get better. But if we talk about mindset and we talk about detail and to become great at something, you have to submerge yourself into it. And it's good, you know, maybe going up playing a game of pool, I could pot a few balls, it's great. But if you want to become world class in business, or whether it be in sport and anything you need to do, you need to live and breathe it. And I'd basically bottomed out. I was 21 years old. I'd lost the cornerstone of my family, and I was about to lose my job. And I got called into the office by a guy called Wayne Smith. As you may not have heard of him, some of you may, but he was a world-class coach, and he was a leader. And for me, he offered me the ultimatum of, you leave this office with or without a job. If you want to keep your job, I'll help you. And which he did. But this guy, Wayne, he had the ability to make an average player good, a good player great, and a great player an international. But more importantly, an international player to become world class. The detail. So when I say submerge yourself into it, until you start to feel the beats of what you're doing, you start to become as one. So when you start, you're probably off key, and you start to understand the matrix and understand, in my case, it was understanding the game plan, understanding the skill set, and what I had to understand. For when I went into a game, being deaf, and everything's sort of kind of visual, is that, you know, these little components that add up when you start putting them together, and fine-tuning. So when you get to the top of professional sport, whether it be club rugby or international rugby, you need to think correctly under pressure. So that's your teacup. Think correctly under pressure. So if I give you an example, if I was to play club rugby, from that first chair, like row of chairs, is probably where I could make decisions around this distance, and I could probably play around or through defenders. But when you get into international rugby, we're getting here. This is the decision making. So you've got to be comfortable with
I was getting a bit worried.
Yeah. All your basics have to be there on call. And I had to learn all that really and fine tune that. So that whole thing for me about understanding that and submerging myself for it was really off the back of my dad. And to that point, when I retired, for me, I felt that I was a role model, because sport, whether you like it or not, every sportsman or woman in the world have an extra string to their bow, whether they like it or not, and they are role models. But whatever, I mean, if they're in the public eye, on TV 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, whatever it may be, they're just going to repeat what they've seen on TV in a playground. It could be biting someone, it could be, you know, falling over, you know, whatever it may be. So for me, I wanted to be a role model, and I wanted to do a lot around bullying, and that's hence how the foundation, you know, came about. And then I found out that I had a massive gay following, and that part of it was actually the main reason why I set it up, apart from my dad dying.
I want to rewind, because there was so much in there that I want to talk about, and we'll touch on the latter side of that answer in a bit. But first of all, you talk about what happened to your father, and you say things do get better. But, you know, there are people who'll be going through really tough times. What is it? How did you find that well of strength and courage to move on? Now, what was it like at that time? And who are the people around you? And what was it they did to help you? And what did you do to help yourself?
We've had a shit couple of years, haven't we? We have, haven't we? And it's been tough. And my biggest challenge has never been sport. Sport's never been my biggest challenge. I mean, sport is probably one of the biggest bullshit non-reality spaces. It's detached from reality. And it's nothing to do with Civvy Street. Civvy Street, everyday life. What a challenge. What a challenge. Like, I mean, proper challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, people will come at you with the knives in their hand and cuddle you and stab you in the back. You know, I've got to say that transition from sport, and it's not for me. It's my journey. It's what, you know, where I'm on, and I've got a lot of things happening. But that reinventing yourself for me was probably the hardest thing that I've done. I've lived in this sporting bubble where everything's done for you, right? You know, you're going to get paid, you've got to perform, you might not get a contract next year, so you've always got to fight. But actually, what I've forgo an education, because when you're getting an education, it's pretty much, or further education, I should say. So education, further education, apprenticeships, university, ruffling your feathers, having fun. And I'm not saying it's something that I regret, but there's a lot of sacrifice you have to make to be a sportsman, and that's the same within business. I know that, but I was transparent when I went into Civvy Street. So your question about how do you find those, that for me was more challenging. Of how to get over to my dad was incredibly sad. He was my best mate, and we started my rugby journey together. But it's very different for when you've got to go and survive. And I can open doors, that's not an issue, but I needed depth, I needed substance to talk about. And that, where I was going to go and the direction that I was going to head in was very difficult. And that's where the foundation really helped me, because I was creating a social commercial brand with some great business people. So I had to learn very quickly. But it was petrifying. And the depths you go to, a lot of questions you ask, we all hate ourselves at some point. We all find that we want to probably need our own time and check out. I had all of that, which is very important. It's starting to enjoy your own company, which I love anyway. And you find things that get you out of that everyday mundane stuff that may be problematic or not, into little bubbles of happiness. Whether you've got a newborn, could be your family, could be even going down a pub or for a walk. Whatever your bubble is, it's your sanctuary, and that's what probably that really helped me. But arming yourself with knowledge and having sense of achievement. That was probably one of the biggest things post-sport. In sport, the cream rises to the top so much quicker. Like in 2 or 3 weeks, I could be in the England squad from nowhere, right? And then, but in Civvy Street, the cream takes so much longer to rise to the top.
And it's not just about, it's not a meritocracy. It's not just about how good you are sometimes in Civvy Street.
Or maybe, or something like that, yeah. So I found that really difficult to come to terms with. But there, look, it's not a sob story. For me, the biggest message that I always try and teach my kid is about resilience and core values. So for me, it's about being nice to people and hopefully they're nice back.
I love that idea of finding those bubbles of happiness. Those bubbles of happiness, because it's almost like they energize you. It's like a computer game. Every time you find this bubble of happiness, it gives you energy to move on and take that next step forward. And I think it's a really, really important message that you left there. Now, I also heard something from Madonna, of all people, who said, never lose your sense of wonderment. And that's almost to have like a childlike sort of process of looking at life, because so often we take so many things for granted. There's so many beautiful things that happen that we just like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. But and those things could energize us and we can use them. So I love that, what you're saying, take those bubbles of happiness. You've been running the charity for 10 years now. What sort of impact do you think you've made?
I always know. Do you know what? We've made a lot of impact, whether it be in the US or it be here, especially with funds. I mean, when we set up and our values was to support organisations, that was the most important thing of it. We're not going to replicate someone's work. We want to help deliver it. And there was 3 ways that we wanted to support: was money, media, or press, or 1 or 2 or 3 of those. And so people would write in. We're a grant-based organisation, and pretty much a lot of your applications, whatever the trend is at that particular time, you would have probably 60–70% of your applications be all for the same work. And if we're getting those applications, and most of them, we've got hundreds of applications, you can imagine how many people are actually on Civvy Street actually doing the same work, that with the money that's being wasted. It's phenomenal. So part of what we do is to take £100,000 and turn it into like £500,000 and say, well, I'll tell you what we may do then. We don't replicate each other's work. Maybe you do that, you could do this. It seems like you could do that. We'll share each other's data, what the outcome is. And we start to get people to work together in partnership. And I've worked with some fantastic organisations.
I mean, run me through the process if an organisation comes to you or someone comes to you for help. How does it work?
Just applications through the website. But look, I mean, it's out of money at the moment because we can't fundraise. You know, we're just coming out of COVID. You know, people still got lockdownitis. Haven't got a lot of money floating around. Charities are closing left, right, and centre. So I'm at that point of what do I do? Especially in the UK, America takes care of itself. I changed the name over there. It was never about me individually. It was about what it was supporting. But over here is very different. It's not a social commercial brand. I launched it with Elton John and Wicked the Musical. But yeah, I mean, it's just where do you raise the money? Like, charity space is more competitive than business. Everyone wants free money. We all do. You know, so it's very difficult to get money in events these days, and people's time, and people don't really necessarily want to go out. But if they would go through the website and put an application in.
I mean, I think you've answered a little bit of my next question, and that was, what are the challenges do you think lie ahead for you when it comes to tackling bullying and encouraging inclusivity?
Education. Like, I mean, it's something you learn. It's something that I mean, when I first started the foundation, and the good thing was in America. So I went to a lot of these different states. Different states are like different countries over there. Very different mindsets, where politics and religion will come into play, and race would come into play, as well as sexual orientation and obviously sex. So it was, I learned a lot on the ground and a lot of what people went through, which I found staggering. In organisations, and when I started 10 years ago, it was on the cusp of we had a lot around racism up to 90s, a lot done with that within the 90s and into 2000. And then when we got into that, around that sort of 2010, 2011, we looked at around LGBTQ+. So we looked at about inclusion. You should be judged on your talent and not your sexual orientation or your ability or colour of skin or whatever it should be. Just judged on your talent. And it used to be very, very, very frustrating. So the biggest bit of advice I got from an organisation was how to affect the movable middle. Right? So you've got the people on the left, like there's probably a lot of people on the left here, maybe have some on the right. But actually, people really couldn't give a shit. Are you happy? That's all we need, right? That's all we need, right? We don't really I can't stand hate, but we have it, right? But it's amazing of how many people who are on the left are in this movable middle that will go and align themselves with the right to go through work.
Are you talking about political left and political right?
Yeah, of your political values. That didn't fall out of my pocket, by the way.
He's nicking the sofa.
I'm tidying up as I go along. That's what it's about. That's my life. No, but your political views or your standpoint on that, which has a massive impact on whether it be school or business, about values and understanding that. And then understanding how your business works and the value of your business and how inclusive you are. Can everyone be their whole self, their whole authentic self? Can they put their head above the parapet? You know, what's leadership look like? How do they lead and how does that affect work output? And I think a lot of that really, again, fascinates me because a lot of companies get their staff operating on probably 60% of their capability. Which blows my mind. So they don't really necessarily have a lot in place around diversity inclusion, so I find that quite frustrating.
And what did you find about the movable middle? What's so important?
They're the ones that are going to create change.
That's the place.
Yeah, and if they can put the thing is with the movable middle is the where they align themselves with the right. To get through work or social situations, and it's unfortunately if they speak up or go against the grain, they end up maybe putting their head above the parapet and getting shot, unfortunately, which you see. And it's about creating an environment where people can put their head above the parapet and say, look, do you know what? I will get listened to here. But it's all about getting yourself around with energizers and not energy sappers.
Yeah.
If you're an energy sapper, gone.
Yeah.
I mean, within sport, it's brutal.
Yeah.
As soon as you're an energy sapper, you're no good.
Later.
You're no good to the team, doesn't matter what your ability is. So it's getting this, getting energizers and getting people to think like energizers and pulling in the same direction. But you need a good value. You need to know what your game plan is or your business outlook is and what you want to achieve, whether that be in sport or business, whatever you want to choose.
It's such a sport-minded process, you know. I can see it. It's the way we think as athletes, you know, bringing those transferable skills into the everyday life, you know. You know, getting people on the same game plan, moving in the same direction, and getting rid of those energy sappers. You could have the best team. You could have the most talented team in the world. All you need is one energy sapper, and that's it. You're not making it anywhere, are you?
No. Well, that's that's the one that's going to always be your anchor, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want.
So what can people do to support your foundation?
With our foundation, again, it's just raising money. It's getting people to raise money and supporting the foundation and hold mini events or whatever you want to do, really. I mean, I try to we raise money through selling products, but also dinners and things like that, or donations. But a lot of people do runs, they do fetes, they do cake, tea days, mornings, etc. But again, it's replicated a lot with other organisations.
I mean, so what can people here do? And
exactly that. Empty your pockets.
If he comes up to you and says empty your pockets, you're emptying them.
It's very, again, hold an organisation, do anything that hold an event and raise some money for. Look, and it's not just for my cause. There's a lot of great organisations out there that need help and support, you know, and whether it be volunteering or it be money. I
want to switch it a little bit and move it slightly more personal again, and say, how have your experiences, you know, in life, in sport, and with your charity, how has that informed the way you bring up your children?
Oh, no, I mean, it's, you know, when I said on about earlier on, and we talk about bullying, and we talk about that whole thing, it's, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's a behaviour you pass on. It's what you're taught. It's, you know, it's an extension of your home life. And, you know, and again, 9 times out of 10, the bullier is the one that's hurting most. And so to that, for me, it was always about core values. And it's always about, you know, picking your fight with your kids, let them push the boundary, let them know that they're loved, honest conversation, lead them to the water, don't leave them questioning. I imagine there are a few in here that go, Mum and Dad aren't looking, I'm off. I don't want that to happen. I'll go with you, we'll have some fun, we'll have some whatever we need to do, but maybe not for you just yet. And look, we live in a very different world to when many of us were kids. Social media,
I mean, we're going to get onto social media.
Yeah,
we'll
but
get
they're the values, and everybody has their own way of bringing up their kids, and I get that. That's cool.
How would you define bullying?
The thing about bullying is, no one really knows what bullying is. So when people go to work and they go, well, I got told off by my boss, they bullied me today. Well, why is that? Well, I didn't do all my work. Are you late handing it in? Yeah. You sure it's not accountability? Yeah. So bullying, it happens, right? We know that sometimes, look, bullying is something that's going to happen every day. They're going to target you. They're going to be mean to you. No, it's not a one-off incident. Someone could be nasty and horrible, and then in passing one day you might not have anything. It's not necessarily bullying. It's just nasty and horrible. But when it's something specific, and they're going to come and pick on you because it deflects their, you know, everything off them and will make them and put them in a different light. Is what bullying is. It's something that's targeted and carries on and has purpose. I'm not saying an incident on its own and someone having a go at you or being mean to you doesn't have purpose on a one-off occasion. But if it does happen, and it keeps happening, and you've got to report it, be parents or your school. Now, my kids had issues at school with bullying, and it's very interesting when you go into school and you actually ask the teacher what bullying is, and what are your whole process around that whole drawing a line under it, and starting again, and what have you got put in place to kids to understand that there's justification, ramifications for your actions, and no, there's not a huge amount in place.
So you think more education is needed?
I think across the board of understanding differences, or just have an open mind.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you've said this, we live in a different world. And there's so many different aspects that affects us. How damaging do you think bullying can be for young people? And talk to me about what you think about the impact of cyberbullying on social media.
Well, there used to be a note round the classroom many years ago, and that was it. And you managed to get home, and you could leave it, from 4 o'clock that day until the next day. Now, anyone can bully. Anyone can make someone's life a misery from a distance. And unfortunately, we do listen to a lot of that. So cyberbullying. Anyone been bullied online here?
Any hands
I'm glad that no one has, by the way.
Yeah.
That's good. No one's put their hand up. Fantastic. One. So look, I mean, it's horrible. Being bullied online and being trolled is horrible.
I've had it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But do you know what I do? I go to those three little dots in the corner of the page, haven't you? And you scroll down and you put block. It's as easy as that, right? They've got one follower, and that's pretty much what they do. And I think to myself, what a sad person. They don't really know nothing about anybody. They just see, just be horrible to them and see if they can get a hitch on it. I think more so on social media, and I think this is really hard for kids, is the perception of the lives that other people live.
Yeah.
And I think we have...
I think we live they call it curated perfection.
What they call it? What?
Curated perfection, where kids go and watch online and they see people who are living this life they think is perfect. And that's because everyone's photoshopping everything, making everything look perfect. And then every kid thinks, I've got to live up to this. If I can't live up to this life, if my nose isn't perfect, my skin isn't perfect, there's no blemishes, then I'm nothing. When really it's not real. It's all been done by a computer. And I think it's a really dangerous thing that we have to try and tackle and get people to understand. And it's about what we value. What do we value?
Well, I don't think we can value what everything else out there is. It's just how you value your own core values and your outset and your outlook, or your family's outlook, and what you want to achieve. Look, I mean, essentially, if you guys hate me, right, so what? I'd be nice to you, but so what? I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow morning and think, I've got to go and impress you. I've got to go and put these people's mind and say, I don't care. I'm nice to people. I do great stuff for me and my family, right? And I have reasons for that. But I don't care what everybody else thinks. It's not going to pay my bills. It ain't. It's great. You're probably all lovely people, and I hope you like me. But if you're not, it ain't the end of the world. Right?
But how do you teach that? Because not everybody has that sort of...
No, they don't. Everyone wants to please everybody else and still have no fulfillment. You'll fulfill someone and make them happy. And then you'll probably got 100 other people that you want to do the same to. And you're never going to do that. You're going to drive yourself mad. I've become brutal with my friendships. I think you have to be. And being in the public eye and the things, everyone has an agenda. I don't have an agenda with friendships. I don't need an agenda with friendships. And it's not for, so I carve that out of your life. Energy sappers. So I just get rid of that. And I think that again, with the values and looking at it, get rid of energy sappers. Be happy. And find out what your happy place is. I had a week off. And I went and walked around Amsterdam for a week. And I've got a lot of friends there. Nike's over there.
Stop off in any cafes or shops?
I walked straight past them, obviously holding my breath. But I literally managed to get myself into a mindset for that week, and I didn't hardly speak to anyone, and I had some time out for myself. So self-care can be is really important. But on the flip side of that, we self-punish a lot. What I do, and I've started to move out of that. And I think that's my sporting days.
You mentioned something earlier as well about enjoying your own company.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny how so many people struggle with that.
Yeah.
You know, and getting to that point.
Oh, totally. It is tough.
Have you had to work for that?
I've never really struggled with enjoying my own company, really. I've actually, I'm deaf, and so it's always quiet in there. There's a lot going on in there, and you know, I miss things. You know, I miss a lot. I miss a lot, and people think I'm incredibly rude. And I'll just walk past someone and think, well, okay, great, no one's talking to me, it's great, you know. And I'll look round, I'll try and be. Yeah, people think, oh, he's really rude and arrogant. And it wasn't until actually it was Elton John that sorted my hearing out.
I mean, do tell us. Come on, tell us. How did he?
So I was sitting. I'd done an article, something. It might have been for something like Specsavers, something like that, and I just found out that I got bad hearing, and so it was a real surprise to me. But everybody else, it was like, no shit, really? That's it. That's great. I mean, I missed the whole World Cup final speech. You know, that whole speech going out towards the World Cup final. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'd caught literally like this, a headline in the paper, and I turned around and everyone was walking out. And oh, no, Clive, our coach. What's happening? What's happening? He goes, Ben, just get the ball and run. And that was pretty much what I did. But I've gone off cue. What was it?
I'm just you're talking about how Elton John.
Oh yes,
helped you.
So I was sitting in the car garage on a warranty job on the car, and the phone rings, and it's this guy called Thomas, something, and he goes, "Oh, no, that's right. This is what." It's Elton rings, and he says, "Hi Ben, this is Elton." I went, "Yeah, of course it is." And I promise you, I put the phone down. Right? I'm thinking, it's just I just finished. Playing, so I thought it was some of the guys that were just playing a prank. And I mean, why? Elton John going to give me a call out the blue. Anyway, so then Thomas rings me back and says, please don't put the phone down on Elton, please. Can you ring him back on this number? So I rang him back, still thinking it's a prank. And anyway, it wasn't. And he said, look, next time you're in America, I want to send you to Bill Starkey hearing aids. And which he did, and you know, do a lot. He said, I wanted to really say thank you for the lot of work you do in the gay community, and being an ally. And I did. I said, okay, fine. You know, I'll accept it, and I'll go and have my hearing done properly. And I had 42%, 43% hearing, but I've got tinnitus, which is I've had that all my life. I mean, it drives some people mad. But I'm sort of used to it. And it's off the chart. And he said to me at the Bill Starkey said, I cannot believe you've been a professional sportsman. And it's amazing of what, and I took it with a pinch of salt. And I suppose over the years, it's become more relevant, really. It's amazing what you can do when you put your mind to it and how you overcome. Like, so when I knew that I was deaf when I did Strictly, but I did it for the foundation, the money to the foundation. And so I knew it was going to be bloody challenging and scary and petrifying and on all of that. And so, yeah, it's good to test yourself. It's good to put yourself in a vulnerable position.
And hang up on Elton John regularly.
Yeah. went round for Christmas dinner with Elton. And he had this wicked Christmas tree.
And Elton John's going to have a decent Christmas tree, isn't he?
And the angel, you know the angel on top of the tree? I don't know why I'm telling you this. But this angel is, you know, Barbie and Ken? You know, it's a Ken, but dressed as an angel in a two-piece. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
I bet you never expected to get these sort of insights, did you?
No.
Hey, that's brilliant, Ben. Now, looking back at your career, who are the people or the volunteers that stand out on your journey from being a young sportsman to becoming a champion?
Out of all of my career, we've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which is nowhere near enough, so I'm going to abbreviate a lot. I got into rugby by accident. I'm from a sporting family. My background, we've got 3 world champions. My 1902, we have a world champion bare knuckle fighter called Dewey Cook. Abraham Cohen, his name was, and his fighting name was Dewey Cook.
Wow.
And 1966, my uncle won the World Cup with England in football. and then obviously with myself. And I wasn't a sporty, and
You just dropped that. Uncle won at 1966 World Cup, and then myself, I won the World Cup. You're just dropping it like it's nothing. This is big deals.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but my favourite time was my junior club rugby, not the professional side of it. I loved the inclusivity of it. I loved the journey of my dad. I still hang around with my friends today from my junior club. And for me, that was never possible without volunteers. So I put that in perspective, and I imagine with lots of parents in here who ferry their kids around for my case, it could be gymnastics or baby acro or what else is there? Ballroom and Lammock, 2 competitions at the weekend. So things like this, but it's parents not just volunteering for their kids, becoming friends, people that are there on the ground and putting stuff together. So for me, a lot of those people that give up their time for you to go and, I wouldn't say necessarily fulfill your dream at that time, but to have fun with your friends. For me, as a parent now, gives you so much joy and sort of satisfaction. And now when I look at when I started with my dad, and when I went round there, that was mine and my dad's journey. And which sort of, made our relationship even stronger. And so I have that. So that whole of that connecting sort of with my family and stuff was amazing. But the other story, when I say I got into it by accident, was on a Friday night. I stayed around my friend's house, and he was playing rugby on the Saturday. It was a state school. Rugby wasn't on the curriculum. Rugby was an elitist sport in grammar schools or private. And I basically went to watch. They put me in the wrong year. I moved schools, and they put me in the wrong year. And they put me a year above than I should have been.
Wow.
I know. And I went through all the whole of school like that. But then when you start looking at it, I don't think I'd have ever made it in rugby if I hadn't been in the age group above, because there's so many coincidences that happen. So anyway, I stood on the touchline. They didn't have enough numbers, and the game teacher, Mr. Allen, said, "Do you want to play?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And he said, "We really need you to play." And I thought, "Oh, okay, I'll play." And I got sent to Lost Property. I had odd boots on, odd socks, and a different pair of shorts, but the same coloured top. And if you'd have said that, future world champion there, you would have said absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chance. But I saw him, right? I didn't even know if he was still alive, to tell you the truth. And I saw him where I walk around in Northampton, around a lake, and he called me out and said, "Oh, Ben, I used to be your teacher." And he said, "My name's Mr. Allen." I said, "Oh, I've been wanting to see you for ages." I couldn't even have a conversation with him. His wife was dragging him away. And I just said, "Oh, bye," but I just wanted to say thank you. But I never had a conversation, which is really sad.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say thank you, because I think that actually, like volunteers, or like teachers, and or parents, to be able to have that, gives that someone that chance, or make someone do something that turns out to be, the road that they end up taking and become successful at, is a real feather in your cap, right? And I don't imagine he'd have had loads of those, so I don't imagine he would have liked to have a chat, but it's sad, but I never got to speak to him.
I mean, it's such a shame. I wish, and I hope at some point you get to speak to him properly, because that's an amazing story. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, how good has this guy been? How good has he been?
Oh, thanks, guys.
Ben, it's been an absolute privilege to chat to you. This is fantastic. I mean, your stories, the foundation, best of luck with the foundation. And if you ever get an invite to Elton's party, give me a shout. I'm coming. Now I want to check out that Christmas tree. But listen, thank you so much. And best of luck with everything you do.
No worries.
Thanks,
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.